were helped because by experts who are not of our level, who gave us knowledge that we need. But today we are going to be doing what we have been doing. But we will be talking about, so listen, to produce a program you need material. You need, where do you get it? Material on climate change can be gotten from yourself. That is one of the first difference that makes us an environmental or a climate change interest. You already know that it has an interest as far as climate change is concerned. So you are your first source. The information is through your personal observation as you go around and observe environmental or climate change phenomena. Natural now. You could also have activities of institutions like governments, research, findings. Those are institutions or research institutions. You can have information from NGOs, but we need to be very careful with information or material on climate change that comes from institutions. Because in most cases, they do propaganda for their institutions. All right? You have an NGO that wants more money for its activities. The reports that they want on climate change. You go to the internet, we have research institutes in Cameroon, and so on and so forth. So you can get information from there to produce your programs. But be very careful because research language is usually very difficult. It will be more interesting probably to talk to researchers, all right, than reading their reports. It's usually very difficult. You can have information from experts. So this is going to, we are trying to say that we should gather material that has interest to the people. So journalists go in for events that have something of immediate interest to the reader, viewer, or listener. And this is why when you listen to the news, in most cases, they start with home news. I remind you that Chris has been editor-in-chief in the newsroom for a very long time, and that is his job. When you are editor-in-chief, it is you to decide which of the items, that is the job he has been doing. Which of the items should I select for the newscast? And from what I have selected, which are the things, what is the order in which the selected items have to be broadcast? In most cases, you see that the structure of a newscast is like this. You have home news, you have African news, and you have world news. Right? It is in order of closeness to home. But if some will start, so the elements we select for highlighting and for the production of our programs in the environment and climate change, the same value and the same reaction that somebody who is listening to the news on the death of a child will react the same if you say a gorilla has been killed. You give in your reporting, giving the gorilla and the death of the gorilla and the death of the child about, they cannot be the same, but about the same value in terms of the reaction that some of your listeners will have. You can humanize the non-human. That's what we mean by humanizing the non-human by using of personal pronouns. If you say, for example, that two gorillas, our immediate cousins have been killed in Kumba or in Kumba forest today. Two gorillas, our immediate cousins, because they resemble us, right? They are like us, and in fact, scientists even say we evolved from them. But the idea that we have used our immediate cousins changes the whole value of the death of gorillas. That is what we mean by humanizing non-human by using of personal pronouns like he, she. In fact, when you listen to good documentaries, they even give names to lions, to elephants, to tigers. That is a style of reporting. You can adopt that in your reports or in the production of your programs over your radio station. Because when you do that, you stress a certain type of intimacy between you and the animals and generate wildlife love culture. In fact, not only because they know better, but because we trust in them. They can enable us to believe in them. And as we said, if they are the people giving us the call for action, because we said communicating for change means would entail centrally that you make a call for action and highlight the benefit that action generates. If it is somebody from the locality that does that, people have a tendency to act even immediately. If you go to the Zok Fund, if it is the fund who stands at the square there and talks, no, go. Maybe the joke comes and babbles and nobody listens, right? So we should be able to do that. Making use of experts and actors operating in the locality through interviews, the event has a home interest. Okay, we have done that. We have already seen that. Or well, maybe just to mention that if you have an NGO, for example, that is operating in your immediate environment, you should go to them for interview, because you will have a convergence of interest. If they are working actually in your environment, it means that they are working at least for the interest of your people, even though they might have other designs. Another thing, another value, as you want to select the material to use for your program, you should think about relevance or meaningfulness. Forest. We understand that the trees will decrease, the soil will be exposed. Those are impacts. They are not yet consequences. We should be clear. It's true that in some literature you have impacts and consequences and effects almost meaning the same thing. But for the sake of our understanding here, we should say that we are referring, by impact, we are referring to things that happen exclusively for now. The deforestation exposes the soil, forest resources disappear, and so those are impacts. But now, what are the consequences of that? By consequence here, we should mean how do those things affect our own well-being? When the forest is faded, the soil is destroyed. There is a soil erosion. It should be something that interests us. So we should start from there. And if we are starting with what is close to us, what has a home interest, and which is of interest to us as individual or collectivity, then we should, from the three aspects of the phenomenon of climate change, which are cause, impact, and consequence, it has home interest. For example, we state the consequence of climate change, environmental phenomena on people in the locality, observing that this community has a problem of hunger. People are hungry. It will attract people more because that is what is closest to them as a problem. And then you backtrack now, after stating in the opening part of your program what is dearest to the people and closest to their mind, because that is their most immediate problem. You can